Warning, the following podcast contains very offensive language, so if you're easily offended or upset, then maybe this isn't the podcast for you. Now then, ladies and gentlemen, and welcome back to the Week Ahead podcast. I'm your host, Bryn Williams, and I'm here to preview the next 7 days in movies, TV, sports and video games. Please remember to like and subscribe if you enjoy my content. On today's podcast, we look forward to Guy Ritchie's new movie, Aladdin. I'll tell you why I think you should check out 2005's Fantastic Four movie with Captain America himself, Chris Evans, and I'll also give you my review on Battlefront 2's new Siege of KAMINO update. All of that and more, and the weekly roundup of the box office, globals and domestic, along with news in sports and video games. Just before we start, I wanted to talk a couple of real world things with you guys, to be honest. First up, I don't know if you've noticed, but this monstrosity has turned up. I decided to invest in the channel and have a proper podcast recording mic, condenser microphone. It's a Neewer. It's a really good setup. This is the first video where I'm going to use it, and it's really, really good quality. So hopefully you can hear it where you are. And not only that, but what you're watching me on right now has been recorded on a specially made iPhone tripod. Yeah, I know, iPhone tripods back again. All I seem to do is talk about the iPhone tripod. It's become a bit of a meme on this channel. Oh yeah, and the dictaphone that I was using to record last week's audio has kind of disappeared from the channel now. So yeah, RIP dictaphone, RIP dictaphone. So now that I've covered that first bit of the real world stuff, I want to move on to something I wanted to do last week in the first week of the podcast. And that was talk about the people that inspired me to start YouTube. Most of them are YouTubers, but there's the odd podcaster. Well, I say the odd. There's only 3 people I'm going to mention. But yeah. So first up, I want to talk... mention Big Paulie. He's a self-confessed Blu-tuber, so a Blu-Ray YouTuber. Every Monday morning, he vlogs himself in his local area, which is down south, and he vlogs himself going shopping on a Monday morning for all sorts of Blu-rays and all sorts of gear that he wants to pick up. And also on that front, he has a series called What's in the Poundland Bin, which I think you guys should check out. It's a really good series, especially if you like me and you like movies and you like Blu-rays and the such. Next up, I want to talk about the John Campea show. It's run by a guy called John Campea. He's an insider in the business. He talks about the comings and goings in Hollywood quite a lot, and all the big breaking stories, all the news that comes out in Hollywood and TV. And yeah, he's really good at being on topic and on trend, and very much like me, a lot of what I do is inspired by that guy. He's great at what he does, and he has really huge opinions, so you either like the bloke or you don't. He's a bit like Marmite, but he's pretty good anyway. I think you should check him out, even if you don't like his opinions necessarily. He's really good at getting the news to you ASAP up front, and then taking viewers' comments and questions and emails, which is the type of thing I want to do eventually once I get enough subscribers. Next up is the Sorry You're in My Seat podcast. They're a bunch of local lads, friends of a friend, and they podcast regularly about their quest to find the best movies of all time. So yeah, so that's really the three that I wanted to talk about. Huge thank you to you guys. You've inspired this thing, whatever this is, the Week Ahead podcast with me. So yeah, so let's move into this week's stories. Let's move into movies. So this week's preview of the movies coming out this week starts with Guy Ritchie's new movie Aladdin, which is a remake of the 1992 animated Disney classic. Stars Mina Massoud of 2018's Jack Ryan series, the one with John Krasinski as the movie's protagonist Aladdin. It also stars Naomi Scott from 2017's Power Rangers as Princess Jasmine, the one that Aladdin tries to seek the love of. It also stars the effervescent genie Will Smith, played by Will Smith, and he's taken on the role that Robin Williams played in the original animated series, so that's going to be hard to follow. Also starring are Marwan Kenzari as Jafar, Nathan Negabun as the Sultan, Nazim Pendrad as Dahlia, Billy Magnussen as Prince Anders, Alan Tudyk, K2SO, as the voice of Iago, with Frank Welker, who plays Megatron in the Transformers movies, reprising his roles from the original animated series as Abu the Monkey, who's Aladdin's little pet, the Cave of Wonders, which I'm not going to spoil because that's part of the movie, and Raja. So the synopsis of Aladdin, I'll just read it to you quick, is Aladdin follows a kind-hearted street urchin and a power-hungry vizier as they vie for a magic lamp that can make their wishes come true. I'm just going to give you my thoughts on what I think this movie's going to be like and what I think and all that. And I want to start with is, can this movie made by Guy Ritchie, which is a bit of a strange choice considering he's made for like he's done a lot of weird movies like Lock, Stock and all them type of movies, gangster movies, and they did King Arthur, didn't he, which wasn't well received. Can he translate the 1992 animated classic that I watched as I grew up, that you probably watched as you grew up, all that type of stuff? Can he actually translate it to screen? I am not so sure. I've heard, which we'll get onto in a little bit, Rotten Tomatoes, I've heard that it's supposed to be pretty good, but it's not the best. And like most of the Disney live animated remakes of their old animated classics, really, there's only really been The Jungle Book that's really been any good. Beauty and the Beast I didn't mind, but it wasn't the best. Dumbo I haven't seen, so I can't tell you anything about it. And then obviously we were at Aladdin, and then Lion King, which is the one I'm really looking forward to later in the summer. Yeah, that's the next thing I really wanted to talk about, was like the genie design. If you've seen how bad it is, I'll probably put a picture up here or up here somewhere, or I'll be in the corner, I don't know yet. Like, it is terrible. Whoever did the CGI on Will Smith when he's in genie form, because I know he turns into like Will Smith Black Genie later on, but at the beginning when Aladdin goes into the Cave of Wonders to get the lamp and he comes out all blue, he looks horrific. It is one of the fucking worst designs I have ever seen for a character in a movie. So that's another thing it's got to try and pull off that I don't know if it's going to be any good at. Can Will Smith live up to Robin Williams? Like, that Robin Williams performance is like one of his best, along with Flubber and some of the other things he's been in from my childhood. Robin Williams, like most of you guys, Mrs. Doubtfire, all that, is one of the greatest actors of that generation. Will Smith, who, like, he's one of the greatest actors of his generation. Can he actually pull off what Robin Williams did? Or is he going to take his own take and do it his way? I have no idea, but I can't wait to see how it performs on the screen. Next, we're going to move on to Mina Massoud. Like, this guy, like I say, has only really been in the Jack Ryan series. I haven't really seen him in anything else. This is his first proper role as far as I'm concerned. And for a lot of the trailers, they were hiding his singing, they were hiding his acting, they weren't too sure if it looked like they were trying to hide. And why would you hide your lead character? I just do not get it. Why would you hide your lead character? Jasmine's great, Naomi Scott's great, but this is Aladdin. The movie's titled after him. Why are you trying to hide the guy? And then as we got on later and later and we saw more and more trailers, we realised that Aladdin wasn't hidden, but they just wanted to get like a feel for Agrabah, or what I think it's called Agrabah, isn't it? Where they're based, where the movie's based. They wanted to get a feel for it. Guy Ritchie wanted to get a feel for it, but still, it's Aladdin, and you're hiding your lead character till like the second or third trailer. It's like stupid. Naomi Scott, I want to talk a bit on Naomi Scott now. Like, I've seen the 2017 Power Rangers only like once when it first came out on Blu-ray. My sister loved it and all. And I was like, this movie is actually really good, because I remember watching all the Power Rangers, like SPD, the original Mighty Morphin, all that as a kid. So to see it translated to the screen, along with Bryan Cranston as the guy in the tube, that I can never remember the guy's name, and he's going to come up later in my TV recommendation, so stick around for that. But yeah, it was just a really, really good movie, and that's the main thing I've seen her in, and she was really cast. She was really well cast, sorry. And she was the Pink Ranger, so yeah, I can see her being like the MVP, if you will, of the movie. So let's just see how she gets on. Yeah, that's the other thing really as well. Like I read out earlier, a lot of the cast are unknowns. I've never really heard of a lot of these people, bar Alan Tudyk and Frank Welker, because like you hear their voices pretty much everywhere. Alan Tudyk's Firefly, K2SO, like I said earlier, from the Rogue One Star Wars movie. Frank Welker is Megatron. He's played Megatron for years. Like Peter Cullen, that's his name. Yeah, along with Peter Cullen, he's played like Optimus Prime for fucking donkeys. Did it in all the animated stuff as well. So yeah, that's really like it's a main cast of unknowns. Bar Will Smith, Naomi Scott, and the voice cast. Like they're pretty unknowns. I've never really seen a lot of these guys in other stuff. Well, not that I can remember anyway. I went on the Wikipedia and did a bit of research earlier, and I haven't really seen a lot of movies that they were in. So yeah, that's a bit of an unknown quantity, this movie. But it didn't do well with the trailers coming straight off the bat and being not the best, to be honest. Yeah, that's really that point covered. Like I say, bringing Frank Welker and Alan Tudyk back is really good, because it provides some consistency from the 1992 version and provides some consistency from 1992 all the way through. So you pick up, like, it brings a nostalgia film more than anything, doesn't it? So like you remember what the Cave of Wonders sounded like, you remember what Abu sounded like, you remember what all the other, well, I say all the other, he's really playing 3 roles, and Alan Tudyk, you know his voice from most stuff anyway. It kind of brings the nostalgia factor, like the Chewie, we're home from The Force Awakens with Han Solo. So it provides the consistency between the two movies, plus it also brings the nostalgia feel and brings you back to 1992 when you were a kid. Well, I wasn't alive, but I remember watching it as a kid anyway. So yeah, that's the main stuff. Now we're going to move on to some like smaller points that I'm not going to talk as broadly about. So firstly, we're going to talk about the music. Obviously, Aladdin is a musical. Like, you got A Whole New World and all the other ones. The Whole New World's the only one I really remember, because you got to think I haven't watched Aladdin since I was like knee high to a grasshopper. What I've seen in the trailers has been pretty good, to be honest. Like, the musical clips we've got and the score we've got and all that is pretty good. I'd say they've pretty much nailed the music down. Cinematography is another one. Cinematography in this movie is gorgeous, especially like when you walk into the Cave of Wonders before Will Smith walks out and Agrabah town. The first teaser was like fantastic for setting the scene, but I wish we'd got some more Aladdin in it, but obviously that was just a teaser trailer. Cinematography looks gorgeous. I don't know who they got to do the cinematography, but he deserves a raise, mate, to be honest. And that's the next thing, really. The main bullet point next is, can it catch John Wick, Detective Pikachu, Endgame? Because they're still going so strong. Like I say, getting onto the box office part in a little while. These guys are like been top 3 for ages. Endgame's been up there for ages. I'd love to, I might do a part soon with Endgame, maybe do a review or something of Endgame later on. So let's just watch the space for now. But that's been a fantastic movie. Pikachu, I still really want to go and see Pikachu. I haven't had really chance to get out to see a lot this week, really, because of buying this and tripod and bits and bobs, and I've got some stuff coming up at the weekend, so I haven't really had the chance to get out to see it yet, which is I'm pretty pissed off about, really, because it's some really good movies, especially John Wick. I love the original 2 John Wick, like talking about the preview like we did last week, and I'll reflect on John Wick later on. But yeah, that's a thing. Can it contend with those 3 movies? Can it go past those 3 movies? Because like I'm not really feeling the hype with this movie, to be honest. Like a lot of people, like I was like, oh yeah, Aladdin's this week. I knew when Detective Pikachu was coming out, I knew when John Wick was coming out, I knew when all them were coming out, and then Aladdin's just kind of oh yeah, Aladdin's this weekend. All right, let's go and see that, I suppose. I don't know. So, yeah, can it keep up with them? I don't think it will. I've got to be honest, I'm going to put my opinion out there right now, and I don't think it will. I think it will come mid-box office range, like 5th or 6th. I'm not going to give you a number, because I'm shit with predictions and stuff. I'd never be a good gambler. Yeah, I just can't see it making it at all, to be honest. I think it's going to fall well short, and it's a shame really, but Disney picked the wrong time to put it out. That's why I'm like glad they put Lion King on its pretty much its own spot. I haven't really done like the research on when Lion King's coming out. What comes out that week? I know it's going to have Spider-Man Far From Home as a contestant. Is that the word? Well, it's going to be going up against Spider-Man Far From Home, because Far From Home's 7th, I'd like to say, 7th of July. Lion King, David Crosby, Far From Home's the beginning of July. Like I said, it would be. What else has it got coming up? So, what's that? 2nd, 9th, 16th. So, it's going to have like, what, 2 or 3 weeks? Probably. Like, Far From Home's going to have 2 or 3 weeks, and then Lion King comes out, I would say. So, it gives, like Endgame, when John Wick was coming out, it came out in the 3rd week, so it had a chance of beating it. So I think with Far From Home, with it being into it's either its 2nd or 3rd week, I can't make the numbers out here, I'm terrible for numbers. It's gonna, Spider-Man Far From Home is going to have done the majority of its run, like Endgame had, but because Endgame was such a cultural event, it carried on and carried on and carried on like it still is now. Spider-Man Far From Home is probably going to do its 2 weeks, then fade out. It's not going to make as much. It gives Lion King the opportunity to come in and pounce, irony there, on the number 1 spot, as this has kind of come out like the wrong time. You got Pikachu in its 2nd week. It's got Endgame still, which is like 4 or 5 weeks in the top of the chart. We've got Pikachu, which has been out a good couple of weeks now, 2 weeks. John Wick's 2nd weekend, this weekend. Oh yeah, and Detective Pikachu's 2nd weekend. That's what I'm trying to work out in my brain when my brain wants to work. So it's like, it's still got all these movies that still haven't really like completed their run yet. Like John Wick doesn't make tons and tons of money, I know that much. And we're not expecting Pikachu to make tons and tons of money, but still, I don't think it's going to keep up with them, because people have been waiting for Pikachu. Me, not necessarily, because I'm not as big on Pokemon anymore, but yeah, nobody's really been looking forward to Detective Pikachu, and nobody's really, everybody's been looking forward to Detective Pikachu, and everybody's been looking forward to John Wick and all, so why would you go and see Aladdin when you've still got John Wick, Pikachu and Endgame in the cinema? It just doesn't make sense to me. But there you go. So just quickly, I'm just going to read off Rotten Tomatoes and the Metacritic, because we've got some early reviews, because you always get the press screenings and everything early. We have Rotten Tomatoes is just a 61% after 135 reviews, so only 61% of the critics liked it, which is a bit meh, not the best. And Metacritic's at 54 after 39 critics, so it needs a couple more critics yet, but it's about middle of the road by the looks of it. It's not the best, not the worst, so yeah, so make up your own opinion on it, ladies and gents. That's your preview for the week, pretty much. These are my thoughts, so just make up your own mind. If you want to go and see it and you've been looking forward to it, go and see it. If you still feel like you need to go and watch John Wick a couple of times, or Endgame, or Pikachu, or any of the other movies that are out in the cinema right now, go and do that. I'm going to go and see Wick and Pikachu way before I go and see Aladdin. So, yeah, that's pretty much it. So, on to the next movie. So next up, we've got Brightburn, which is a superhero horror movie produced by Guardians of the Galaxy's James Gunn. Yeah, he's back to his horror roots. And directed by David Yarovsky. It's David Yarovsky's first film, and it's nice to see James Gunn go back to the horror stuff, which is what he was good at in the first place. Stars Elizabeth Banks from Hunger Games as Tori Breyer, who's pretty much a lead character bar Brightburn, like the kid that you see. David Denman, who's been in the Power Rangers, which seems to be coming up quite a lot, 2017's Power Rangers. And Logan Lucky, which I love that film, he's in that as well. And he's starring as Kyle Breyer, who's Tori's husband. It also stars Jackson A. Dunn. I think this is his first role, because he is quite young. He's not a child actor, but he's like in his teen years. I haven't really seen him in much else. There isn't really that much out there on him. And he's starring as the lead, Brightburn, like the bad guy, the superhero, whatever you want to call him, supervillain, whatever. Also starring is Matt Jones as Noah, Becky Wallstrom as Erica, and Gregory Allen Williams as Chief Deputy Diva. So, Brightburn, I'm just going to read the synopsis for you guys. Brightburn begins with both Tori and Kyle Breyer, who dream of starting a family but struggle with fertility. That is, until an alien spacecraft drops out of the sky at their feet, housing a young alien boy who is human-like. They adopt the alien as their young son Brandon. All goes well until Brandon enters puberty and realises he has special powers such as super strength and the ability to fly. But all is not as it seems, as Brandon appears to turn evil, begging the question, what happens when Superman turns evil? That is such a sick premise. I love the idea. James Gunn, he's just got his thinking hat on and he's just gone, what can I do? I'm known for superhero stuff and I'm known for horror. Well, I'll just bang the two together. I don't do horror movies. Anybody that knows me knows I really don't do horror movies. I have a really overactive imagination, so when I watch a horror movie it just sticks in my brain all night. But this is one of the first horror movies that I have actually been excited for, that I'm really looking forward to getting out there and watching. It's just a great premise. I love my superheroes, you know that, as we talked last week with my mum. Superheroes are my thing. So to see a superhero horror movie, and it's not just that, it's the premise that what happens if Superman landed and wasn't actually a good guy and didn't turn into the Man of Steel that we know him as, and didn't turn into Clark Kent and wasn't raised by Martha Kent and his dad, Jonathan Kent. What if he was raised by somebody different? And what if he was different? And what if he didn't realise he had all these powers and all that? And then people bullied him and people picked on him. And rather than getting the teachings from Jonathan and Martha Kent, just stay calm, leave it alone, you'll learn, you're bigger and better than them, as you'll always know. And you know, if you do start anything, Clark, you'll injure them and then nobody will want to be around with you, blah, blah, blah. I know, it sounds like a really harsh thing that they say, doesn't it? Yeah, don't fight back to them, because if you actually fought them, you kill them, and then you'd be distraught, wouldn't you, Clark? It's such a mad thing to teach a kid, but there you go anyway. But it's the first thing James Gunn's been on since he was fired by Disney for his tweets, which I'm not going to bring up because I'm not interested in talking about it. It's old news now. But he's been recently rehired, especially after Dave Bautista went on strike. It's his first project back, because he's also doing Suicide Squad for DC. He's one of the first people to do a Marvel and a DC thing at the same time. So it's good for him to come back to a smaller project, come back to his roots, come back to the horror genre, which is what he's... Well, it's not what he's known for, obviously, because of Guardians of the Galaxy, but it's the stuff that he built his craft at and what he knows best, and being in a production role with a guy he's worked with before, because I did see this, David Jurofsky. He directed the Guardians Inferno music video, you know, for that Guardians Inferno song at the end of Guardians of the Galaxy 2 with David Hasselhoff. David Jurofsky directed that music video, which is quite a fun bit of trivia, I think. But yeah, so them two working together on a great project, a great sounding project. Let's see how we get on with that. Like I say, it allows Gunn to go back to his horror roots, which he hasn't really done in a little while. He did, let's just go back and have a look. I can't remember what it's called. Like I say, I don't really do a lot of horror, so I can't remember a lot of horror movies, apart from the ones that are out in cinema now. Yeah, so it allows James Gunn to go back to his horror roots, like he did with Sliver, which is the one he's known for, the Belko Experiment he was a writer on for. The majority of the stuff that he's known for are horror movies, that allows him to go back. He's done a lot of writing credits. I didn't know he wrote Scooby-Doo 2, the second one, with Monsters Unleashed. I remember that as a kid. That was fucking god-awful. The first one was better. Scrappy-Doo was the maddest thing in the world. But anyway, there we go. So, it allows him to go back to what he's good at. It mirrors 2013's Man of Steel. So, I bet if you watch this movie, and then you go back and watch 2013's Man of Steel with Henry Cavill and his dad, who's Russell Crowe, and all that lot. You've probably all seen it tons of times. yeah, it kind of mirrors what Man of Steel was doing back then, and you can probably compare like where it went wrong, what was the problem, and then compare it. It's like so cool to compare and contrast two Superman stories, but what if the bad guy was the good guy? No, what if the good guy was the bad guy? It makes such sense. So, in this movie, is Lex Luthor the good guy? That's a question. Like I say, I don't really do horror movies, but it looks really good. Like the cast isn't like really well known, bar Elizabeth Banks really, from tons of stuff. It just looks really good. I don't know what else to say, to be honest. But superhero horror looks like it's going to be a new genre. James Gunn being the originator of it, and David Jurofsky. I hope that's how you say his name. Anyway, that's how I've been saying it. It looks like it's a new genre, to be honest. So yeah, cinematography is gorgeous in this movie. Like, I like to talk about like the technical side of stuff, like the way it's lit, the colour grading on it. It's just like, it's gorgeous. It's dark. It feels claustrophobic, especially the scene where you see Brightburn come through the window in the diner, and you see that woman all on her own, and she's crawling up into the corner, and he comes up and he's got that mask on with the cape, like the sewn together mask that looks creepy as fuck. And he just goes, phew, and the glass ends up in her eye, which is one of the things I wanted to cover as well. That shot is just mad. How they did that is like the maddest thing. Like where she just goes, pulls the glass out her eye, and then he just jumps on her. It's the maddest thing. I really enjoyed it though, to be honest. It's nice to have Elizabeth Banks back in a lead role. I haven't really seen her in much recently. Like I say, I'm sure she was in Power Rangers. Was she not the? Yeah, she was. Plus, she was in Lego Movie. I should have realised that, and other bits and bobs. Yeah, it's nice to have her back in a lead role. Something a bit smaller that she can just have fun with. Horror movies are always fun to star in, I've heard. So yeah, that's pretty good. Small cast always works well in these types of movies, so it allows them to work together. Like the lead three allows them to work together, do a lot more work rather than having to work with a massive huge cast and having to do this bit and that bit. You can just bring it together and you can get it directed in a lot smaller weeks because you don't have to schedule stuff. I really recommend it. I don't do horror, like I said, but I really recommend it. So yeah, that's up to you guys to go out there. But like I say, I just want to give you the Rotten Tomatoes quick. It's 64% after 56 reviews. So like Aladdin before, it's a bit of a middle of the road movie. It seems to have a lot of middle of the road movies this weekend. That can change. Like same with Aladdin, like they will change backwards and forwards because we're only on what I'm recording this on Friday the 24th, so they'll probably change over the weekend once they're in wide release, so that should be good. And then last but not least, Metacritic, it's 56, 46 after 18 critics, so yeah, so that's really it for your preview this week. Next, we're going to bring up the movie, the budgets and the global box office numbers and reflect on last week's movies. So let's move into that part. So next, ladies and gentlemen, we're going to be moving on to last weekend's gross, the week that John Wick came out, and we're going to be talking about the overall gross as well, kind of in the order. So I'll talk about the weekend first, then I'll do the global gross, because this is a new segment. I didn't have the global numbers last week, so this should be a segment that'll last a little bit longer. So first up, I've got it right in front of me, so I'll be reading off the screen quite a little bit for this. So first up, we have John Wick Chapter 3, Parabellum, which we all knew was coming out last weekend. It's a new entry. Came straight in at number 1, beating Avengers Endgame, something Detective Pikachu couldn't do. It made a weekend gross of $56,818,067, making it number 1, obviously. Next down the list, last week's number 1, finally been dethroned after nearly a month at the top. Avengers Endgame, done by Disney. Made $29,973,505 last week. So yeah, still making money, still making quite a lot. They're still predicting that it's not going to reach. They're now predicting, that it's not going to reach Avatar now. So that's going to be sad because I really wanted it to be Avatar, especially after James Cameron being smug about all the superhero movies. But anyway, so next up was last week's number 2, Pokemon Detective Pikachu. That made $25,108,159 this week. Next was one of the last week's previews that we did, A Dog's Journey, done by Universal. Came in at $30,085, so quite a bit. Then we have The Hustle, which was last week's number 3. That made $6,139,638. So that was in 5th place, The Hustle. 6th is The Intruder, which was number 4 last week. Made $4,017,808. Then we have Long Shot, which was last week's number 5. Moved down to number 7, obviously. Made $3,341,917. So that's quite a lot for Long Shot still. Not made tons, but it's getting there. Then we have a new entry last week, which I didn't know was coming out. That's why I never predicted it. It's The Sun Is Also a Star. It came in at 8. That's a new entry. It made $2,511,530. So that's at number 8. Number 9 is Poms, and that made $2,180,698, and that was last week's number 6. Next up we have, in the last but not least, 10th position, we have Ugly Dolls, which was 7 last week, and is now in the 10th position, and that made $1,779,617. So that was last weekend's numbers. So next up, ladies and gents, we're going to move into the global box office numbers. We're going to go at it in the same numerical order as the weekend box office. So it's going to go from John Wick to Avengers to blah blah blah, the list that you just listened to. So first up, John Wick overall global gross is $105 million. So that's made quite a lot back already in 1 week on its small budget. So next up is Avengers Endgame. People are saying that it's not going to catch Avatar right now. I think Variety put out an article talking about John Campea earlier. He put something out about it saying Avatar doesn't look like it's going to be caught, which is sad because I'd loved Endgame to catch it because of James Cameron's comments. So that's made $2,622,914,098. That's not bad, even if it doesn't catch Avatar. Next up is Detective Pikachu, which has made $295 million, which has made quite a lot back on its small budget and all, even though it had quite a lot of CGI. Then we have A Dog's Journey, one of the new ones last week, which came in at $25 million, so that's not bad also. The Hustle has made $53 million, which is pretty good. Next up we have The Intruder, which has made just shy of $30 million. Then Long Shot, which has made $36 million. The Sun Is Also a Star, a new entry this week, has made $3 million overall, which I'm surprised it's even made that, to be totally honest, because I didn't even know it was coming out. So that's that one. Next up is Poms, which made $11 million. Ugly Dolls made $20 million, and that's really the top 10. So I just want to go into some notable ones in the top 15. So we have Curse of La Llorona in 12th on the weekend box office, which made $118 million. So that's not bad on its small budget again. Then Captain Marvel in 13th, which has made $1,126,000,000. So nearly made $1.2 billion for a movie that everybody was complaining that they're not going to go and see because of feminist propaganda. Yeah, don't give me shit. So next up is Tolkien in 14th. That's only made $4 million. I was expecting it to make a lot more than that. With Game of Thrones ending and a lot of medieval stuff coming out now and big long form stories talking about epic fantasy and stuff like that, I would have thought that would have made more considering it's Tolkien's biography. But only made $4 million in 14th. And last but not least, in 15th is Shazam. And it's actually made quite a small amount. I was expecting it to make more than this. This is why they're not sure if Shazam's coming back. It's only made $360 million. Which only had I can't remember how much they said it was. It was only a small budget for a superhero movie, so they're happy with the profit they've made. They've obviously made a profit, but still, it's only made $360 million. But then, like you say, also the good part is it's an unknown quantity and it's still managed to make $360 million. So there you go. So last part I want to talk about is just like I say, a preview of last weekend. I'm just going to give you like the cinema scores because we never had them last weekend. And I just wanted to give them to you, just so you can make up your own mind. Because if you haven't gone to see it yet, then this might push you over the edge. Because Cinema Score is the best audience rating. This is our audiences, people like me and you and whoever else, and Tom, Dick and Harry and Jack and Jill who go to the cinema. This is how they rate it when they come out. They poll people as they come out of the doors as soon as the movie's finished. And John Wick 3 got an A- cinema score, so make of that what you will. Dog's Journey got an A cinema score. And the way cinema scores work, anything above a B is a great movie, and anything C and downwards is pretty trash, to be honest. I had to whisper that part. So yeah, so that rounds up last weekend's gross and the global gross for all these movies. Now we're going to move on to my movie recommendations for yourselves. Movies that have been out quite a long while. Last week there was only one movie, but the same with the TV recommendations. From now on, to slim the podcast down a little bit, because I think an hour and a half, an hour and 20 minutes is kind of pushing it, considering how much I drone on. So I've kind of limited parts. So like what you'll see later with the football, the sports section is now really slimmed down just to football. And if there's any interesting sports stories, I'll bring them up. First, there's only going to be one movie recommendation and one TV recommendation a week now, unless we have a special guest, and then we might do 2 or 3. But when it's just me, it's just going to be one. So my recommendation for this week is a movie most of you have probably seen. Like I said in the podcast intro, it's a movie I love. I watched as a kid quite a lot. One of the first couple of movies that got me into superhero movies, along with Sam Raimi's Spider-Man and some of the others. And I even watched Blade as a kid, so make of that what you will. That's why I've turned out fucked up. Blame the mother. Call her up. But yeah, anyway, so we're going to be talking about this lovely movie. I'm going to bring it closer to the camera so you can see it. Fantastic Four 2005. I absolutely adore this movie, but I'm going to go through the cast and synopsis first, just so you guys can make of it what you will, and then I'll give you my thoughts on it. So, Fantastic Four 2005 stars Johan Grufford, however you say his name, as Reed Richards / Mr. Fantastic. Then we have Jessica Alba, who I used to adore as a kid. She was my crush as a kid, as Sue Storm, or the Invisible Woman. Then we have Michael Chiklis as Ben Grimm, or The Thing, as they like to call him. And finally, Captain America himself. This was one of the roles why Kevin Feige decided to choose him, but tons of people were telling him not to choose him because they saw him in this movie, which is funny because I'm recommending it to you, is Captain America himself, Chris Evans, as Johnny Storm, the Human Torch. Also stars Julian McMahon as Victor Von Doom, or Doctor Doom. They obviously liked him in that Marvel movie because they brought him back in the Runaways TV show. So yeah, catch Runaways if you can. Kerry Washington as Alicia Masters, who turns out to be Ben Grimm's girlfriend, but I don't want to spoil anything. That's just something you find out later on in the movie. And then we have the late, great Stan Lee, my hero, one of my many heroes, but he's my main hero. I did cry when he died, just so you know. In one of his greatest cameos, well, I say greatest, it's one of the first cameos I saw anyway, as Willie Lumpkin, the doorman on the Fantastic Four tower. I can't remember what it's called now. What's the tower called? Baxter Building. That's the one. I was going to research it then, but yeah, he's the doorman on the Baxter Building. No, is he? I don't know. No, he's not. Do you know what? I haven't actually seen this movie in that long that I can't remember what his cameo is. Isn't he like a postman or something? I don't know. Anyway, but yeah, his cameo is really, really good. Like when I can remember it. But he's in it, so if you want to have a cry about Stanley, another cameo to look at. Fantastic Four picks up with 4 scientists and 1 billionaire, Victor Von Doom, who funds the overall project that they're going on. We go to outer space to research cosmic energy clouds for the benefit of mankind. Whilst aboard the research station, a malfunction allows some cosmic energy to enter the station and grants all 5 present special powers. When back on Earth, the 4 learn to control their powers and become a mini family, as they protect the world from the villainous Doctor Doom. That's good. But yeah, so that's the synopsis really summed up. I love this movie. I'm just going to go into some of the points why I think you should check it out, if you want to check it out, that is. So, it's a great movie from my childhood. I absolutely love it. I was brought up on this movie. It came out when I was, 10? Probably? So yeah, so it came out when I was 10. It was one of the great early 2000 superhero movies. Its sequel was good. Came out with Daredevil, Elektra, the Sam Raimi Spider-Man trilogy, all the other ones that came out around that time. So there you go. If you want to see a really cringy 2000s parts and really cringy 2000 CGI and really cringy 2000s looks and sounds and stuff, then you're right in your element. It features Chris Evans before Cap. Like I say, Kevin Feige, I've heard, chose Chris Evans as Captain America after seeing his Johnny Storm. But some people said Johnny Storm almost lost him the job. Because everybody was like, you casting that guy as Captain America? Johnny Storm as Captain America? Are you mad? But yeah, so you get to see him before then. And it's so funny to see like the difference, the comparison between Johnny Storm, Chris Evans, and Captain America, Chris Evans, and Negan. I can never remember his name. He was also in The Losers with Idris Elba and a couple of others, and Negan himself, Jeffrey D. Morgan. He's so funny in that. So if you compare that with Johnny Storm and then compare those two to Captain America, it's so weird. Like the weirdest comparison. But most of the CGI in it was pretty good for its age. A lot of like the thing was practical, which was good, and a lot of the effects were practical. But the odd bit of CGI they did have in, like when Reed Richards puts his hand under the door when they come back from the space station, you see, that was really good. Like when his hand goes flat, and like they flatten his hand and he goes up and he pulls the door from underneath because it's locked. That's really good. That's a really good scene. See if you can find that on YouTube if you want to pick the Blu-ray up. Villain was pretty good. Doctor Doom was better than the Silver Surfer and Cloud Galactus in the sequel, but really good. And it doesn't fall. I don't think it does. This is my opinion. I don't think Doctor Doom in this movie falls prey to what everybody says is the MCU's forgettable villain problem, like where villains turn up for one movie and they die and people forget who they are, like Malekith and Ronan. Because my brain's like a full sack of shit, I remember all these things. But some people don't. But I think like even if you watch this movie and then a couple of years later you forget about it, you still remember Doctor Doom. He's that memorable. The four bounce off each other really well as a cast. I think they do. Like they're really good as a cast. They come together, they have laughs and jokes, they look really like a family, like they should be. The Fantastic Four always were a family in the comics, so I think like they got a blend of different people, brought them together as a cast, and they really bounce well off each other. Well, that's my opinion anyway. Yeah, now we're going to get on to some of the negatives that might put you off the movie, but this is like totally up to you guys, to be totally honest. It's your opinion. Well, you need to make up your own mind on it. I'm just giving you a recommendation. These are the things that you might not like. Just make your own mind up. I always say. So, the Reed Richards and Sue Storm romance is fucking cringe. I fucking hate it. Them two together, although as a family they work together, and although as them two bouncing off each other is really good, the actual romance parts and the actual thing is so hard. It's like prequel tier dialogue. Oh my god. It's cringy when they start talking to each other. It's like, at the end, there's a part at the end where he's trying to propose to Sue Storm. He turns around and says, I found a gasket in space. And she goes, what do you mean you found a gasket in space? He turns around and goes, well, I thought if you put it on, it could be a wedding ring. Ooh, cringe. And the sequel, them two together, like as characters talking off each other are good, but when they get to the romantic stuff, oh, it's cringe. There's a bit at the end of the movie, because obviously, you know, with most superhero movies, they win in the end. They have a dance scene on a barge, and there's some CGI where young Grufford's Reed Richards twists himself up and goes up into the sky. It is some of the worst CGI I've ever seen. Like, it's up there with like Black Panther when they're falling down the cavern. Some of the stuff from like shit CGI. Some of the movies were shit CGI. That was crap. It's full of early 2000s reference, so either that's cringy and reminds you of your childhood, or it's really nostalgic. Make your own mind up. It's probably been the best Fantastic Four movie so far. It's better than its sequel, I think, anyway. And it's both of them are miles better than the 2015 one, obviously, because of studio interference and all that. But it's, I say so far, because obviously Disney bought out Fox, and now the MCU Marvel Studios get to use the X-Men and Fantastic Four now, so obviously they'll probably do a better iteration. I hope so anyway. But for now, this is the only movie we've got. So the plot was pretty easy to understand. It's pretty simple. It's not one of them ones where you have to have prior knowledge like the MCU or it's like the most in-depth, and there's like 3 different storylines and plots all merging together. Now it's just a simple, you follow these 4 all the way through the movie, from when they get their powers to the end with the big battle, obviously, that you know they're going to have. So that's, and the whole movie's pretty executed. It's executed pretty well, to be honest. Tim Story does a really good job, the director, in these movies. I just really enjoy his version of the Fantastic Four and how he does them. But yeah, just to sum up, it's just really enjoyable. It's a really good superhero movie. It's fun. It's everything that a good MCU movie is, apart from the cringy bits. And I'd highly recommend. It is one of those movies that it's like a cult movie, or whatever you want to call it, where some people really love it, but others absolutely hate it, like it's Marmite to them. It's one of them movies, like there's certain movies that I watch that other people just hate and despise, and like they don't even give it the chance, whereas me, I absolutely love this movie. But just to finish up, just before I get into the critic stuff, I just wanted to say this Blu-ray, in this case, because this is the case that it comes in, that's the case, but this is the slipcover. It's actually in Poundland if you're in the UK right now, because you know Poundland have those massive Blu-ray stacks down the electronics aisle. It's in there right now for £2. So if you're really interested and you really want to try it and see how good it is, I recommend picking it up from Poundland. Don't go to HMV and all that, because they've got stacks and stacks and stacks and stacks of these. In Poundland's where I am up in Lincolnshire, around Lincoln and Boston. I've seen tons where Big Paulie is, down south, around Folkestone and that way. So just go and pick it up from there. So just to finish up, like I say, I'm going to go through the Rotten Tomatoes, the Metacritic and the Cinema Score. So Rotten Tomatoes is 27% with 211 reviews, so it's pretty rotten, but that's just the critics. I really enjoy it. If you enjoy it, you enjoy it. There's lots of bad movies that other people love, like The Room. Everybody loves The Room, thinks it's hilarious because it's so shit, which is the point. Whereas this isn't hilarious, it's just really good. It's just that it's bogged down with tons of tons of cringy shit. Once you get through the cringy shit and the 2000s references and stuff, there, the story underneath is just so good and so compelling. It's one of the best iterations of the Fantastic Four so far. Metacritic is a 40 based on 35 reviews, so not that many reviews, so it's not going to really change that. It's 14 years old, nearly 15 years old. Jesus Christ. Didn't realise I was that old. And then last but not least, just going to give you the Cinema Score. Like I said, anything above a B is pretty good. B's about middle of the road and got a B. So yeah, that's really all the more you can ask of it. So that concludes today's movie recommendation. If you enjoy it, I highly recommend you pick the Blu-ray up. If you just want something to watch with your mates while you have a couple of pints and we really enjoy superhero movies, it's just a really good watch. I can't recommend it highly enough. So that is it really. We're now going to move into the TV part, where I'm going to talk to you about Game of Thrones and give you my TV recommendation for the week. So yeah. These are this week's Blu-ray pickups. Firstly, we have A Town Called Eureka, which is the full season box set on DVD. Then we have Black Hawk Down, which is the new 4K remaster. This week's main pickup is Destroyer with Nicole Kidman. That's on both DVD and Blu-ray. Dominion is the complete series on both Blu-ray and DVD. Next we have this week's other main pickup, Dragon Ball Super Broly. That's on Blu-ray, DVD and the double play steelbook. Plus the movie trilogy of Battle of Gods, Resurrection F and Broly, all in one pack. Then we have Lock, Stock and Two Smoking Barrels, remastered for Blu-ray. Monk with Tony Shalhoub, that's the complete series DVD. Mr. Selfridge, Jeremy Piven, has come out on DVD. And finally we have Outlander Season 4 on DVD and Blu-ray. So the next part we're going to move on to is the TV, like I've just said. We're going to first talk about Game of Thrones season finale. So yeah, I know there's a lot of hate for it, and although I've enjoyed the season, I've had my problems, so we'll talk about that. And then we're going to move into my TV recommendation, which is one of the best TV series ever made, and I plead with you, absolutely plead with you, if you have not seen this, it is on Netflix. They're selling them off cheap in Poundland, the DVDs and the Blu-rays, and they're selling it off cheap everywhere. Just pick it up and watch it. It's one of the best cop villain TV shows ever, and of course I'm talking about Breaking Bad. So first we're going to move into Game of Thrones. We're going to talk about the season finale and then my thoughts on the season overall. So yeah, let's get into it. So yeah, firstly I wanted to say, for a season finale, it didn't really feel like a finale. It felt like it just came out of nowhere. It didn't really feel like it was a good ending to this story that's been going for like 8 years. It's a bit of a rushed. That is one of the things I can say for these last 2 seasons. That is the main criticism of the whole thing, is it's just been too rushed. Like, why could they not flesh it out for another couple of episodes, another couple of seasons? But like, people have been putting criticism videos out, like Cosmonaut Variety Show and Captain Midnight and a couple of others. I've watched their reviews of the season and stuff, and Chris Stuckman as well. I watched all their reviews, and all of them just saying why they choose it. Because like I said last week, but I'll just refresh your memories anyway, HBO offered D&D, D.B. Weiss and David Benioff, offered them more money to make it a full season, to make it 10 episodes, or to do extra seasons, and they turned it down because they thought it was impeding on their vision. And their vision was, let's just rush everything and get it done, because we're kind of bored of Game of Thrones now, let's move on to Star Wars. It's like, why? This great story, this guy, George R.R. Martin's put his heart and soul into all these books, done his best, taken years and years and years and years to perfect his story, and then you go, oh yeah, fuck it, right, alright then, we'll just rush the last 2 seasons for no reason. So that's kind of my thoughts overall and of the finale. I'm going to move into like some specific points of the season finale in general. So first up, didn't like Bran as king. Why pick Bran? Why not pick Gendry? Gendry, the Targaryens had deposed line, Baratheons took over, and the Baratheons are the rulers, rightful rulers to be honest, right? Gendry has been legitimised because Dany gave him Storm's End. Why not just give him the crown? Yeah, I know they're trying to say, let's change and not make it because kids of other leaders are brats. Well, Gendry isn't. Gendry's been raised right and he's the rightful king. So pick him, and then after that you can pick Tom, Dick, Harry, so-and-so later on, can't you? But why Bran? He's like the worst character. He's done fuck all for the whole season. He's done fuck all for the whole of last season. Except like go, oh yeah, I'm the Three-Eyed Raven, and I'm just going to like say lines randomly at the end of the episode. Why? He's had like 10 lines this season. He's like been the worst character this whole season. And the whole of last season. He's done absolutely jack shit all. And they gave him king. Yeah, I understand Jon couldn't have taken it. And yeah, I understand some of the others couldn't have taken it. But why? Why Bran? Why not Gendry? Why not Tyrion? Let Tyrion take it on. Yeah, he's become a bit fucking thick in his old age. But why not let Tyrion take it on? I just do not understand it. But yeah, that's the first point I want to talk about. Second point is, where the fuck is Drogon? What the fuck happened to Drogon? He literally burnt the throne, picked Dany up and said, right, fuck you, Jon, I'm off. And then, like, Bran said, oh yeah, he mentioned right towards the end when they had the meeting with Bronn and Brienne and Sam and the rest of them. Who am I missing? I can't remember who I'm missing. But yeah, when they were all together at the end and they were all having their meeting, Bran turned around and said, oh yeah, I might have an idea where the dragon is, like meaning, I think, that he's going to walk into the dragon. But why? Why? Why not just show Drogon getting fucking shot? Just show where Drogon is. Why does it have to be left open-ended like everything else in the season? Just give us a proper satisfying ending. Don't be a dick about it. It fucking pisses me off. Like, big time pisses me off. Just do it properly. On a good note, Jon and Ghost reuniting was really good. Proper decent fan service. Really enjoyed it. That was a really good part. Yeah. You could have taken a bit more time on, obviously, but obviously because they want to rush through the season, they just gave it a really small part. The individual endings for the Starks were really good. No, I liked Jon going up north to live with the wildlings. You can kind of assume that when he gave Ghost to Tormund. Sansa taking the north and separating it, that's been going on. We've been thinking that's going to go on. Either it was going to become a republic, like each individual area of Westeros was going to be ruled by its own ruler, or the north was going to separate and just be 6 kingdoms, which I enjoy. Arya going off, I think she should get her own season. Pirate Captain Arya would be good. And then obviously Bran as King, which I fucking hate. But yeah, so they're the main 4 endings. And I like 3 of them and I hate the last one. So that's that. What? Dany died like way too quickly as well. That was the next point I was getting to. Why did she die so quickly? It was literally like, oh yeah, Tyrion turns and says, you need to stop her. Alright, and goes up there. Hi Dany, how you doing? Yeah. Touches the throne. In a bit, dead. The Drogon fucks off with the body. It's like, been building up to this. She's turned in 1 episode, and then she's dead the next. The fuck? That should have been a whole season. It should have been a whole season. You could have had episode 1. She's at the gates. She hears the bells. Then it builds up and builds up and builds up, and it shows her doing other terrible stuff and other terrible stuff. And then right at the end is when you get the climax with Jon. I just do not get it. But there you go. And that's another criticism, right? And I've seen other people mention this in their reviews, right? The only reason Jon is up north with the wildlings, other than it was his choice really, but the reason he was banned up there to the Watch, which he didn't even stay with, he fucked off with the wildlings, like, why in the fuck did he get left up there when the only person who wanted him up there was Grey Worm and the rest of the Untied, and then they fucked off to Bravos at the end? It's like, so you're going to ban one guy up there, and the only guy that really wants him banned up there is going to fuck off to a different continent? Oh, was it? It was either Bravos or Narth, wasn't it? It might have been Narth, actually. I might have got that wrong. But yeah, still, he's fucked off on a journey. He's sailing on a fucking journey, and you ban Jon up north. It makes no sense. They rushed that yet again, rather than plodding it out, saying Grey Worm will be coming back, so Jon needs to stay there, otherwise war will happen. I understood why they banned him up there, and that's true, that's understandable, but the next part I want to move on to is Tyrion is the MVP of the episode. I really do think he was. Peter Dinklage was awesome when he was crying over Cersei and Jaime. Awesome bit of acting, fantastic actor. He's pretty much been the MVP for the season for me. Even though he's been thick as shit, most of the stuff he's done I've agreed with, and he was boss when he took off his hand of the king pin, or hand of the queen pin, took it off and threw it on the ground in front of her and she arrested him. Mad. I love that bit, that was great. Next point was, how does Drogon know how to burn the throne? How the fuck does he know? He's a dragon, right? So how does he know Dany, the reason Dany died was because she wanted the throne. So he goes, oh yeah, right, in an act of symbolism, I'm going to burn the throne. Why didn't he do what I said? Burn Jon, and then you find out Jon's fireproof, and everyone goes, oh yeah, he's a real Targaryen, and then he could have taken over. Fuck Grey Worm. Well, like I said, my overall thoughts really are, season's been pretty rushed. Parts could have been written better, like some writing was just like, it just rushed it yet again. Why does it need to be rushed? Just calm it down, take it over. Even more episodes, it could have done a season 9 or a season 10 like George R.R. Martin wanted and spaced it out, but no, you had to go, oh yeah, let's do a little small one. But like, I'm a Star Wars fan. I love every Star Wars movie that's come out. I even like The Last Jedi, make of that what you will. But these guys are taking on it. I hope they don't rush their trilogy, because I will be on the boat with them lot. And I hate hating Star Wars, because I hate all the haters. I stand people that have proper criticisms of Star Wars, but I just hate the people that hate on it for the sake of it, or forced feminism or whatever. Yeah, so I hope they learn from this and the mistakes and everything that people have told them and their problems, and they take it on properly and space out their trilogy. But yeah, that's really my thoughts on Game of Thrones. We're going to move on to my TV recommendation for the week. Like I say, it's going to be Breaking Bad, so we're going to move on to that now. So next up, ladies and gentlemen, we're going to be moving on to my TV recommendation for the week. When it's just me, it's going to be one, and when I have a guest, maybe it'll be more. We don't know. I'm working it out as I go along. And this week's recommendation is probably the greatest TV show ever made. I now rank it above Game of Thrones because Game of Thrones is ending. Breaking Bad co-stars Bryan Cranston from Malcolm in the Middle, which is Malcolm's dad, and Godzilla 2014, who also had Elizabeth Olsen and Aaron Taylor Johnson. Aaron Taylor Johnson's dad was played by Bryan Cranston. Bryan Cranston stars as Walter White. Also co-starring with him is Aaron Paul from Need for Speed and Central Intelligence as Jesse Pinkman. Along with that, we also have another few cast members. Also starring is Anna Gunn as Skylar White, who's Walt's wife. Dean Norris is Hank Schrader, who's Walt's brother-in-law. He's a cop, and he's Walt's brother-in-law. Betsy Brandt is Hank's wife, Marie Schrader. She is also Skyler's sister. That's where they're like related. We have R.J. Might as Walt Jr., who's Walt's son. Bob Odenkirk as Saul Goodman, and once you've watched Breaking Bad, there's another separate TV series called Better Call Saul, where Bob Odenkirk is the lead character, Saul Goodman, in that. It's an offshoot from Breaking Bad. Giancarlo Esposito is Gus Fring, who's a bad guy in season 2 and 3, I believe. And Jonathan Banks is Mike Ehrmantraut, who's a secondary character that you see quite a lot. This is also along with Stephen Michael Quezada as Steve Gomez, who's Hank's partner. Then we have Kristen Ritter as Jane Margolis, who's Jessica Jones, who's Jesse's girlfriend later down the line. So we have Jesse Plemons as Todd Alquist, who's in the final season as one of the bad guys, along with Laura Fraser as Lydia Rodart Quayle, or whatever her name is, I think. And she's another bad guy in season 4. So yeah, so that's the main cast. There's tons of others, but if I named the whole cast, I'd be here all day, to be honest. So it's set in New Mexico. Breaking Bad tells the story of Walter White, a struggling and depressed high school chemistry teacher who's suffering with stage 3 lung cancer. Together with his former student, Jesse Pinkman, White turns to a life of crime by producing and selling crystal meth manufactured to be an iconic blue colour to secure his family's financial future before he dies, while navigating the dangers of the criminal world. So, yeah, that's the main stuff that you need to know. Now I'm going to go into my opinion and why I think it's the greatest show of all time, to be totally honest. So, it's basically Bryan Cranston's defining role. That's the thing that most people know him as Walter White. He's excellent in this. He's one of the best. It's one of the best acting performances on TV that I've probably ever seen. He is like that good. Like the pathos he brings to the character, the emotion, the heart. When he's faced with an evil criminal, he gets scared and you could just feel the emotion and why he's doing it. He's not just a criminal for the sake of being a criminal. He's a criminal because he's trying to do a good thing for his family. But as it goes on, he starts to enjoy the criminal life and he becomes deeper and deeper and deeper, and then he can't pull himself out. So that's why it's so good. It's probably one of the best casts ever assembled in entertainment. Every single character hits every single note they need to hit, and it's fantastic. It was when it was on, I obviously watched it once it finished because I never heard of Breaking Bad till like 2015-16 when it finished. But when it was on, I always heard it's one of the most compelling dramas like ever put to TV. Week to week to week to week, you never knew what was going to happen. You never know how it was going to happen. You never know whether Walt was going to become bad or stay good or whatever. It just blew my mind at the time. Plot is easy to follow, like I said, with Fantastic Four. So it's not many interwoven things like the MCU where you need prior knowledge of whatever. You start at season 1 and you go to season 5 and that's it. And it's one self-contained story, so you don't need to research tons before. You could just put it on, done. And the plot's pretty simple because it just follows Walt and Jesse, and then you see Walt reflecting his wife, and Hank is the only really separate story, and then the criminal stuff, which you see later on, which don't want to spoil. The soundtrack that's on it's pretty good. It's like full of like indie rock stuff from this generation, the 70s and the 80s. Really good stuff. Play a clip, but I'll probably get copyrighted. So yeah, it has many quotable lines and has a variety of different directors. So a lot of directors got their start on this. Like I remember the Fly episode where they literally just followed the fly around for the whole episode. It was so cool. You'd never thought of that. That would have been so cool until you watched it. Yeah, I'll put some like I might put a little clip of like some quotable lines in here if I don't get copyrighted. Let's see how we get on first. So cinematography, it's like some of the best cinematography ever. Like colour grading, the oranges and the hues were fantastic. The big, broad, open pictures when you're on the road with Walt and when he was doing stuff. And like when it needed to be dark, it was pitch black, and when it needed to be light and bright, it was so colourful. It was fantastic cinematography. Whoever did it, like, deserves a pay rise, to be honest, I think. So that's mainly Breaking Bad. That's my opinion on it. I just think you should check it out. There's not much more I can say without spoiling it. just talking about the cinematography and stuff like that. There's not really much else I can say, just I'd love it if you guys could check it out. And if you do check it out, the same with Fantastic Four, leave a comment in the description below. Tell me that I've done good, or tell me that I've done shit, either or. But yeah, please leave a comment, and don't forget to like and subscribe. So just quickly, guys, I'm going to give you the Rotten Tomatoes and the Metacritic, just because you guys like to hear it, I hope. So first up, Rotten Tomatoes is just a 96% rating. I haven't got how many critics rated it because there's just too many. You can keep it on the site. And Metacritic was 87% rating based on 98 reviews. So yeah, so that's mainly it. And like I say, but yeah, so that concludes the TV section of the podcast. That's mainly everything that I need to tell you. And now we're going to move on to a new part of the podcast, which I've kind of removed the sport bit because my speciality is football. I've now called it Football Weekly. So it's going to be a run through of the important stories of everything that happens, especially while the season's off. It'll be a lot more detailed each week once the season comes back. But just for right now, it's just going to be like all to do with football. So sorry, you guys are expecting me to talk tons and tons and tons about cricket and rugby and all that. But unless it's important, like the Rugby World Cup or the Ashes, I'm not really going to talk about it because I know fuck all about cricket. I definitely can't tell you anything about rugby apart from who won, pretty much. Even though I'm part Welsh, so I should be ashamed of myself, really. But there you go. So, first up, congratulations are in order for Manchester City as they beat Watford 6-0 last weekend to claim the FA Cup and their first ever domestic treble. Next, both Julian Brandt and Torgan Hazard have made transfers to Borussia Dortmund, with Brandt, the former Leverkusen man, costing a reported £22 million, and Hazard, brother of Chelsea's Eden, costing £30 million, respectively. Next up, we're back in England, and Bournemouth have made their first signing of the transfer window, purchasing Lloyd Kelly from Bristol City for £13 million. We now move into the English lower divisions, with all the playoff finals finally being confirmed. They are Newport v Tranmere in League 2, Charlton v Sunderland in League 1, and finally we have Derby County v Aston Villa in the Championship. Following up, we have two smaller stories. Firstly, Antonio Conte has been pretty much confirmed to take over the Inter Milan job for next season, and PSG's owner Nasser El Khelaifi has been charged with corruption over Qatar's bid to host the World Athletics Championships. Finally, we finish with two funny stories this week. Ex-Manchester United player George Best has followed in a long line of footballers who have made god-awful statues made of themselves. At first we had Cristiano Ronaldo's bust, then a less than flattering statue of Diego Maradona, and lastly Mo Salah's big-headed statue. To finish, both Sergio Aguero and Kevin De Bruyne set up a bunch of City fans for a great prank where they pretended to drop the Premier League trophy while it was put on display at a fan event. So yeah, now we're going to move on to the gaming part of the podcast called Gaming Weekly, same with Football Weekly. And like I said in the intro, we're going to be mainly talking about Battlefront 2's SIEGE of KAMINO update, along with a couple other little patches, and I'll put all the patch notes in the description that I can, so if you want to read it in detail, it's down there for you to look at. So first, we're going to talk about the Capital Supremacy map added. It looks gorgeous, like the whole part. I know it's mainly brought from the Galactic Assault Kamino map, but they've added some little bits here and there and whatever, and it just looks gorgeous. That's all I can really say about playing it myself. A, B, C, D points are all pretty well placed, pretty balanced. The AI are in it like before. It's nice to have another map, because when it was just Geonosis I was getting bored out of my skull. But now we've got Kashyyyk, Kamino and Geonosis. It's miles better. Not only that, we have the Heroes vs Villains rework. They've been talking about this since probably before Christmas. Been talking about it for ages, at least since they brought Anakin and Dooku into the game, and it's finally come out now in this May update. So it's now been reworked to work more like Blast. So you have a ticket amount. So originally when it dropped, because there have been some changes done, because they can do server-side changes, like they have done with like the reinforcements bit before, and changing the AI and the timings and stuff on other maps. It started as 25 tickets either side. So tickets are like how many deaths you have. So your team has 25 deaths and the other team has 25 deaths. So whoever has 25 deaths first loses. So whoever gets to 0 tickets first loses pretty much. It's basically like normal blast. And you have a respawn timer. But this has now been changed. As of midnight Friday, they changed it to have 50 eliminations now, so you have 50 eliminations before the game ends, because with 25 it was running around 6 or 7 minutes. Now it's up to about just past 10, so that's 50, and the respawn timer is 6 seconds, so that's miles better, because the target system was trash, and now it gives you more chance to play as a team and defend yourself, and you can have now more one-on-one battles rather than 4 on one person. Miles better. I think they will put an objective in it eventually. I don't know what it would be like. They will put the target system back in, but rather than you have to kill that person to get a point, it will be more like if you kill that person, you get 2 eliminations. So yeah, so we'll get 2 eliminations for a target, if you know what I mean, or something like that would be interesting. But yeah, so that's heroes versus villains covered pretty much. That's the main stuff I wanted to cover with that. Next up, they've increased the level caps for all the classes, so like all the trooper classes, all the starfighter classes, both hero and normal, all the the infiltrator class, the enforcer class, the aerial class, and all the heroes have all been increased to 1,000. So you still get credits and you still get your points to unlock your star cards at the end every time you level up, but after 40 or whatever level, because with the heroes it was 40, with the troopers it was 7. Every level after that now you have a cosmetic change on the death screen. So when you kill someone and they die, they see that you're at level 80 and you'll have a big cosmetic thing, and people that are higher up the list get different cosmetics, so you can tell like a level 1,000 killed you or a level 80 killed you, that type of thing. So that would be pretty good. Cosmetic changes are always asked for, and a level cap, we've been dying out for a level cap since they changed it, the last level cap last year. It was about March or April, I think it was the Endor update anyway. So we've been dying out for this for a long time, and it's finally happened. We still need a normal level update, like a player past level 50 would be nice, but as it goes, that's pretty good. They've added a voiceover wheel, so all the voiceovers that you get over your remote, so like Obi-Wan's hello there and all the iconic ones, they've now taken it away from the emote, so you have the emote wheel to do the whole thing, or you have a voiceover wheel, which is voiceovers, and the reason they've taken those is to trial the VO wheel, the voiceover wheel, because eventually they're going to implement some of the voice lines from like the heroes that, you know, where they have the hero banner, but there's one, some of them they're just on their own, like Anakin says, I don't like sand, you can now, once they sort it out, you'll be able to trigger that in the voiceover menu, that type of thing. So that's the main stuff. There's been tons of hero map changes all over. If I went through them all, I'd be here for ages. Like, they've changed Boba Fett's backpack so he recovers more from force pushes, and he can dodge in air now, which is pretty good. Luke's repulse animation is a lot more refined. Tons of like buffs and nerfs in there, so go and check them out. I'm going to put them in the description below. So that really concludes Siege of KAMINO. I'll put some gameplay in the background hopefully, and then we're going to move on to the next part, which is a game I haven't talked about on this channel yet, but I do play quite regularly, is PUBG PS4. So yeah, PUBG PS4 has just had a patch on PS4 and Xbox, mainly to the public test server. And finally brought it back because it came on my disc, because I bought my disc from Asda, because my PS4's filling up, so I wanted some of the data on the disc. So they've updated the public test server, and the MP5K has now been added to the Xbox PTS, and eventually it'll roll out onto the PS4 and normal Xbox. So that's the main thing. They're the highlights of the patch really, the MP5K and the PTS coming back. The rest of the changes, buffs and nerfs to guns and loot changes and all that, I will link that to PUBG Official in the description down below. Not really much to talk about with COD in regards to COD this week. Apex Legends has just had a patch, but I don't really play Apex that much, so I can't really tell you my thoughts on it, to be totally honest. But that's really everything for the gaming part, to be honest. I know it's pretty short this week, but there hasn't really been much bar Battlefront, and I can't really talk much about it without having the patch notes in front of me, and then I've got to go through everything. So that pretty much concludes the gaming part now, and with that, the whole podcast overall. Just before I conclude the whole podcast and say goodbye to you guys, I wanted to ask that you send me some questions via email. I'm trying to save the last 10-15 minutes of the podcast for you guys to send me questions about movies, TV, sports, games, whatever you want to talk about. Just send it to me. I'll put the email up on the screen now, which will be brinlarden@gmail.com. Yes, I know I haven't rebranded my email yet, but I'd love to get your questions because then it engages audience participation. I know then that you guys are watching my video and engaging with me, and then it also gives me a chance to bounce off you guys more. So yeah, like I say, the email's going to be across here somewhere, brinlarden@gmail.com. I hope you send me some questions. I'd love to answer your questions, and that's really the main point I wanted to cover at the end of this. That concludes episode 2 of the Week Ahead podcast. Thanks for watching. Please remember to like and subscribe. If you have any suggestions for me for parts to add to the podcast or questions to send me via email or whatever, please leave them in the comments below. And that's pretty much it. Thanks for watching, and see you in a bit, ladies and gents.